All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me today for episode 57 of The Brick Wall. I'm excited to be joined by the founder of the designers group, Blima Ehrentreu. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I was really happy to be a part of this. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. So I ask guys, I usually start out by asking everyone where they are. So where are you today?
In my New York office in Brooklyn.
Oh, so phase 4 is treating us all right, I see.
Hmm?
I said phase 4 is treating us all right, getting back to work.
Yes, I cannot complain. Thank God things are starting slowly to get back to normal.
So the designers group is a design company. Why don't you give us a little bit of your inspiration and why you started it? Tell us a little bit about it as well.
The Designers Group is an interior design firm that I started back in 2010 with another designer. And what began as a two-woman firm blossomed into an international design firm with offices in the US and Canada. And we're doing projects throughout both those countries. So it's been an exciting journey. Blossomed into something a lot larger than I ever believed, and we're doing exciting projects both in the residential sector and commercial.
That's amazing. And you've recently made a move and expanded to Florida as well, right?
Yes, yes.
What's that like?
There's a lot of projects down there, and it just felt like the right step forward to continue expanding our brand.
When did you make that move?
We opened the office there at the end of 2019, so end of December, beginning January, and then Corona hit. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing, and I interviewed a friend of mine who's a real estate broker and property manager in South Florida. And he said that New Yorkers and people from all over big cities are moving down to Florida. So although it may be impacted by the virus, I'm sure that lots of folks who are getting down there, are looking to redesign, and do stuff to their properties down there.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of development down there and a lot of projects going on, and we're involved in quite a few already, and we want to continue to grow down there.
That's awesome. By the way, I just noticed, and I appreciate that I have a brick wall, but you also have a brick wall behind you. I know that it wasn't on purpose, but I appreciate. Thank you for thanks for playing.
Our brick wall is actually a brick wall.
Oh, yeah, not one of my fake virtual. Okay, fine. So
I wanted to coordinate.
I appreciate that. You are a designer after all. You are. So tell us how you got started in the business. I mean, I know you said you started Designers Group and it's blossomed into this amazing thing over the last 10 years. But what was your inspiration? Career trajectory before founding it.
I always had a passion to create, perfect, and improve the things around me. So it only felt natural to take what I loved and make that into my career. And when I was growing up as a teenager, my parents crashed down our house and rebuilt it. And I was part of that process, and I loved it, and decided then that this was something that I couldn't really do. And I really believe that our environment impacts us on so many levels and in so many ways that we don't even realize ourselves. And I just feel so lucky, and I know that my team also does, that we are able to impact those spaces in a positive way and really help shape people's environments for the better.
That's fascinating always, and I believe to be true. But now more than ever, right? People are having to find ways to use their space in multiple ways, right? If you're not working from your office, you're working from home. And again, you have to compartmentalize, like, this is my workspace, this is my family space, but maybe it's the same space. What kind of challenges does something like that, present to designers, and how do you overcome that?
I was just saying the other day that it's so interesting. If people would have known a few months ago that we would be spending so much time at home, the way we chose our homes would have been so much different. So I think that now is the time to really look at where we're spending most of our time and make sure that we're productive there and that we're able to use the space in the best way. And I know for myself, we were working from home, we were working remotely for quite a few months. Some of my team is still working remotely. And it's so important to have a space set aside where you're going to be working so that you're able to concentrate there, you're able to be productive. And I just have some tips. I'm happy to share them.
Please.
Maybe help some people with where they're working. I always think natural light is really important, being productive and being able to work. If you see here in my office, I have a great window in our workspace. We have a ton of natural light, especially if we're working with colors and materials. But I do always say having natural light is really important. So if you have a window in your home, be great to set up your desk somewhere around there that you can work in front of it or near it to have the natural light. Another really important aspect is the chair that you're sitting in. Don't underestimate a comfortable chair. Warren, I see that you're standing, and I have a standing desk because I feel like if I'm sitting crunched over a computer all day, when I'm working from home, I like to be able to stand and walk around a little bit. So that's definitely something to explore if someone's working from home, just to give them a little bit of mobility and the option to not be cramped in one space. And I always say that everyone knows the way they're able to work most productively. For me, it's visually seeing inspirational images and quotes. So I have that all over the place. And at the same time, I make sure to keep the space uncluttered. The more clutter there is around, the more clutter in my brain. I need things to be clean and clear to have that clean slate. These are just some of the things that work for me. And I invite everyone who's listening to try and see if they could improve their workspace.
So is that a real thing? I think there are studies that have shown that a cluttered space or a messy space, leads to more decision fatigue and other issues, when conducting your life and or business. Where do you think that affects most? Or since we're quarantined, or some are still working from home, do you think that that's just completely blended now and it just affects everything?
It's always easier to work in an organized fashion and in an organized space. However, there are some people who if there's things going on and it's crazy, that's when they get the most done. So that's why I always say everyone knows their strengths and what works for them. And when we have the option to design our own home office, we can do whatever works for us. When you're working in an office space and the company has certain regulations, they want your desk to be neat, or you're working in an open office space, you don't have that opportunity. But yes, I definitely do believe that clutter fatigues your brain. The decisions are just haphazard, everything's all over the place. And key to running a good operation is being organized and taking care of the details. So yes, I agree with that for sure.
So my team and I, which at first consisted mostly of dudes, and now it's, the majority of our staff are women, on the digital marketing side. When we first moved into the office, we moved in, it was formerly a law office, and there was nothing on the walls, no plants, nothing, just really good light. Are we a typical example of folks who don't pay attention to interior design and your environment impacting you?
Sorry, I missed that last thing.
Sorry, I said, are we a typical example? Do you have a lot of clients where you walk into a space and they've completely ignored their environment and the inspirational quotes or the nice photos of islands, of this, of that, and other inspiration? I mean, do you encounter that a lot with working with offices or commercial clients?
At this point, I've seen so much, so there really is nothing that I haven't seen. But I really do believe that an office space is a place, especially if you're bringing clients into that space, it's really somewhere that you could brand your company, what you're about, your brand, and it's such an easy way to do that. I know in our office, we use stickers that we apply to the wall to just put our logo and some of our branding messages, because it's so easy to do that. People walk in and they feel our brand, they understand our vision. And I always say, especially in office space, it's so easy to do that, and it's such a great way to continue to develop your brand for people to see. And even for your team, I always think it inspires us that we have such a beautiful space to work in. And seeing our company motto and our colors, and it all just leads to more creativity, which is what we're after. And I think that every company wants their employees to be innovative and to really be working with their brands, and having that environment to do that is so important and really enables the people on the team to be able to do that.
I'm going to have to get some more branding for our office for sure.
Definitely. You know who to call.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, I'll have to get you down in New Orleans. I want to get more into like the changes in the office space and hospitality and other things from a design standpoint, as it pertains to COVID in a second. But first, I mean, you've been doing this for 10 years. You've, blossomed and grown this company, as you said. And I've gotten to see it over the last couple of years as well. What's been the biggest change in your mind, in design world over the last 10 years?
What I would say the biggest change that I've seen in the past 10 years is technology. The introduction of technology into every area of our life has really changed the way we live. I remember growing up and driving to a place, and we would constantly be stopping in gas stations to get directions and then taking the wrong exit. Now, who doesn't have a GPS on their phone? So it's just really, technology is changing every single aspect of our lives, and I do see it in design in such a great way. For example, retailers now, in order to bring people into stores, are giving them a virtual experience. So that's one way that most people haven't even experienced that part of design yet. That's the immersive design experience. But there's so much with technology. Walking into a space, the lights turn on. There are so many examples, and even on our side of the design, we're able to give clients the virtual experience of the space before we even build it. And we're using so many different technologies and platforms in order to make the design process easier and more visual for everyone that's involved. So definitely on our side, in terms of the technology available, and also just in terms of the spaces that we're designing and all the smart features that we incorporate into them, are probably the biggest change that I've seen.
I mean, I know that in the past, a lot of the technology platforms for design were like, AutoCADs or whatnot were for like bigger projects, for like huge, plates, design, commercial design. But a lot of that is now being, now that's affordable and, a tool that you can use for residential as well. Is that correct?
Yes. And I see my nieces and so many kids playing with these games that they're virtually designing spaces. So I know that they're just, as technology continues to improve and more programs come out, will be even easier for that to happen.
Boom. So again, you've been at this for a while, and you always felt like doing it, but someone who always felt like doing it, who's an aspiring designer, what's your advice for them?
My best piece of advice would probably be that just don't give up. I know when I started my first residential project, I was designing, I was working with another designer, and we ordered a custom sofa. We were so excited about it, which was a beautiful fabric, and delivery day came and they could not fit the sofa through the door into the house. And it was so embarrassing, and oh my God, this was a custom piece. And basically we took responsibility for the mistake. We paid the restocking fee and ordered a smaller sofa. But what we learned from that is no matter what you're ordering, it doesn't matter if it fits in the space, you have to make sure that you'll be able to get it into the space. And that's what I always tell my team. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. We're all gonna make mistakes, and every day we learn new things. But when we do make those mistakes, what's really important is to learn from them and to make sure that whatever lessons we have, we take into all our projects moving forward.
That's great advice. Design. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit. How about as a female entrepreneur? Like, what advice do you have for fellow female entrepreneurs, design or not design, in running a business?
What I would say to all females out there, you got this. And I really believe it doesn't matter, we're female or male. If you know what you're doing, you have a passion for it, go for it. And don't let anyone stop you. Don't let any failures stop you. And if you have a dream, go after it.
All right. So now I want to, like I said, I wanted to switch, to a little bit more COVID stuff, because I know you put out a, response statement, as far as like redesigning spaces, for the future normal, or, the new normal. What does that look like to you?
We're still figuring that out, to be honest. There is still so much unknown, but what I'm seeing is the change in how we're approaching the spaces that we're designing. A few months ago, any of the amenity spaces or office spaces that we approached, we looked at it from an angle of bringing people together, collaboration, gathering, meeting of minds, hearts, etc. And all of a sudden now we're pivoting from that and really designing spaces for people to be at a distance and to be safe and not bringing them together. So that's something that I really see as a long-term effect of what we're experiencing right now. For example, in the residential buildings that we design, we do a slew of amenity spaces, rooftops, lounge areas, fitness gyms, game rooms. It really depends on the building, but so many amenities, and they're all designed so that the residents in the building will come together, get to know each other, and all of a sudden now we're being called in to rearrange the space so that people can still use the spaces, but at a distance. Same with our healthcare spaces. People are nervous. They don't want anyone to contact any dangerous diseases. So all of a sudden we have to pivot from people sitting in a waiting room together and reimagine how that space will be.
Do you think that it's going to be like, go to the hospital, you go to a doctor's office, and there's that, the plexiglass panel, or there's the face shield, but do you think that hospitals and medical facilities are going to be completely like overhauled and redesigned, with an eye towards, keeping people at a distance?
So I don't know overhauled and completely redesigned. There definitely are some aspects that have to be introduced to make the space feel safer. There definitely will be a lot more virtual doctor's visits. Even checking in when you come into the emergency room or to the waiting room, things will be digital so that there isn't that much of a waiting time, and also so that the surfaces remain less touched. I think that there will be separate entrances for people who are contagious so that they don't spread whatever it is that they have. The introduction of plexiglass, that's already been done, but there'll be a lot more of that. It's really about keeping people safe and also making them feel safe. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of, especially as we continue to guide our clients. Sometimes it's really about the safety protocols and we're on top of them and we've been researching them and implementing them, but it's also about people feeling safe and knowing that they could go into these spaces without having anything to worry about.
And then your job is to not only make it feel safe and actually be safe according to protocols, but to also make it, fit into the design aesthetic, or, make it look like it's not a piece of plexiglass. Am I right?
Exactly. So it's about incorporating everything and not making it look like a spaceship. So I know, for example, in a lot of the healthcare facilities that we're designing, now they have a station set up where they take your temperature to make sure that you're safe before walking in. We've been introducing technology that you just walk past, either an iPad or a screen, and it takes your temperature virtually. So it's not that you have to stop and take it. Right now, still in the healthcare facilities, you do need a sign for it, and there's protocols in place for that. But in residential buildings, if someone's living in a building, they want to know if there's someone in the building who might be sick, and this is a great way for landlords to ensure the safety of their tenants. So there's so many different technologies that we've been working with and so many new features out there, and every day there's something else. So we're really on top of that, and we want to make sure that our clients are able to provide the best service for their residents, for their tenants, and for anyone who's using the space.
So, I mean, do you think that the collaborative or, squish as many people into a Midtown office concept is completely over?
Definitely for the near future, I would say. Listen, who knows? But I think, especially because so many people have been working from home at this point and they've been productive. So companies are seeing a shift. And I heard on the radio this morning that when people are looking for new jobs, the number one thing that they're looking for right now is that flexibility to be able to work from home. So obviously it has to be a job that you can do that. But since that's the case, who's going to want to stuff people into a small space?
Yeah, absolutely. And on that end, we have a bunch of technology as well, whether that's Zoom and the other services, Teams, Slack. Obviously, we have email, text, FaceTime, and we can, we can, have a meeting. We can, do an interview here. Yeah, I mean, we definitely live in an age where we're fortunate enough that we have all these technologies across the board that allow us to do that and make it easier, because I think many industries would have a tougher time without the technology. As far as hotels go, I've seen Hilton or some of the the bigger chains have done things where they, like Hilton has a partnership with Lysol. Before you enter a room, it's completely cleaned and sanitized, and then they put a seal on it. Are things like that more optics and partnerships, collaborations with Lysol, obviously, to make people feel safe? Or do you think that that's, once a room is cleaned and and left alone, sealed, do you think that actually is safer?
I would say that it's definitely a combination. People need to feel safer in order to be going to hotels, and hotel owners recognize that and appreciate that. But there also is an aspect that the spaces really do need to be safer, and that the rooms have to be 100% clean before new residents are coming into that space. I know I stayed in a hotel, and we were getting a suite, and we wanted to check out the room before going in, and they said to us, once you go into that room, we can't let anyone else go in for 2 days. And we appreciated that because, especially in the hotel industry, most of the guests are traveling. And because Corona is because we're trying to contain the virus, having people walking in and out of rooms from different countries or states can really magnify the spread. So we definitely appreciate that hotel owners are putting these regulations into place, because it's definitely not easy for them, but it ensures that it's safe and also feels safe.
What else can you do from a design standpoint that would make a hotel lobby safe, or a hotel bar safer? Meaning, without putting plexiglass, we're talking like a 4 or 5 star classy hotel. You don't want to feel this plasticky vibe, touching the leathers and that nice aesthetic. Like, so how do you find materials and things that blend, that create a safe environment within a hotel lobby or common space?
It's a good question, that, especially when you're talking about a 5-star hotel, and exactly, you don't want to see plexiglass all over the place. There are a lot of materials that are antimicrobial, which they don't absorb and infection or disease or anything. There is also just really reimagining the space and the layout of the furniture that's there, so that the people who are together can sit together, but keeping the distance between other people. And again, there's smart technology, which will be used even more than before by making a lot more surfaces contactless and really making the space enjoyable for everyone in a way that doesn't impact the experience of being there.
So what, and what do you see as being like the number one, whether in technology or design or the combination of both, since we've been talking about, like, what do you see being the next revolutionary item in design as far as technology goes?
The vaccine. But I would say once we have this vaccine,
back to normal.
Yeah, who knows, but that's really what we're hoping. And in terms of technology, I've been hearing about so many incredible startups and all these ideas that they have for the space to make it feel safer and be safer. And with each idea, we just have to see how the virus plays out and just be on top of it and offer it to our clients so that they can decide to use it or not. And some of them at this point are still too early to see. So it's just about staying on top of the trends and seeing what's out there and introducing whatever it is to make people's lives easier. So what I would say is the one that we're using the most at this point is that temperature control one, where it measures that just by walking through the space and not really impacting your experience at all.
And then, lastly, because we're going through different areas that, affected by COVID, has retail, I know, retail's been hurting in many ways, a lot of the big box stores, but have you seen less retail, like store design, or, less demand for that because more people are shopping online and, it's definitely tougher to, maintain that overhead while people are, quarantined or, not, there's not as much volume of traffic?
Yeah, retail right now in terms of design is not really a space that is being used that much. And when I say that not being used that much, restaurants are only allowed to sit patrons outside. When the summer's over, we'll have to deal with that and figure out how that's going to work. In terms of retail shops, the change rooms are closed. So people are walking in and buying clothes, but then they have to come back and return. So it's just a lot easier to shop online. I think retail is one of the spaces that we're really waiting to see how it plays out and what will happen. Because right now, the way it is, and with all the regulations in place, it just has to be convenient for everyone. And we're waiting to see how that plays out.
All right, so the lonely holdout, because we know hotels are coming back a little. We know that hospitals and senior care facilities are definitely in demand. People need a place to live, and they need a place to travel.
What I've seen some really interesting and innovative uses of space. Some hotels, like for example, the White Hotel, has been marketing their hotel rooms as office space. People can rent them out for a day and use it as an office space. I saw in a hotel in Europe, I don't remember the name, but they're providing people with a glamping stay where they can stay outdoors in a tent and they have all the amenities of the hotel. So I really love to see how different industries are coming up with creative ways to use the space that they already have and bring new revenue in for their existing spaces. So that's really also where we come in. We're happy to be able to give clients different ideas of how to reimagine their space and be able to use it in different ways that they never thought of before. So
talking about new revenue streams, has anyone reached out to you and asked you how to perfect their background for Zoom?
We've never been asked that, but even myself, like I tried a couple of times. You got a pretty down pat there.
Well, I have a virtual background, but if I really wanted to have something or advice to others, like, when spending 8 hours a day on Zoom or however many hours, like what kind of things do other people want to see, or what makes it visually appealing more than our faces, and the natural light? What should we have in our backgrounds or try to have in our backgrounds when on Zoom calls all the time?
For a Zoom background, it's always good just to have a clean, organized space. I don't even really think that it's so much about what you're showing on the screen, but about how you feel in the space that you're in and how it's working for you. And that's what I really would concentrate on if someone would ask me, what should I do about my space if I'm sitting in it all day? It's not about what people are saying, it's about how productive you are in that space. So obviously, yes, if you're working professionally, you don't want to have a messy bed in the background. And then I would recommend just use Zoom, use a background. There's no risk involved in it, and you'll always have your bed made because it won't be visible. But about the space, and that's why I think even though we're doing so many calls on Zoom and people aren't really going out, I think that's when the space that we're in most of the time becomes that much more important. And we really have to pay more attention to it and make sure that the space is not bringing us down. And even though we don't have that much opportunity to go out, we're still keeping ourselves positive and in an environment that is productive.
That's a great answer, and I'm sorry for the curveball, but I thought it would be interesting because it's definitely applicable in our time.
Definitely, for sure.
So I appreciate you joining me. Where can folks find the Designers Group? Where can you be found? If they need design projects, either here, Canada, Florida.
We can be found in all 3 locations. We are up and running. I've been dividing my time between New York and Miami. Spent quite a lot of time in Miami over quarantine, and we're doing quite a few projects down there. But I also, New York right now is where I mostly work out of, so can't stay away for too long. And Toronto as well, that is our home base. That's where we started. So definitely you can find us in all 3 places.
That's awesome. And it's thedesignersgroup.com. Is that the domain?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I really appreciate you joining me. It's fascinating information, very cool design tips, and I think most people should take them, and I definitely will zhuzh up my my personal space while I'm working from home, and I really appreciate you joining me.
Thank you, Warren. This was great. I really enjoyed it. I hope everyone else did too, and I know that I've tuned in to quite a few of these Facebook Lives, and they're really great. So much important information that's always really interesting to listen to. So thank you.
Well, thank you for adding to it, and I appreciate you watching. All right, cheers.